Prince George, William and Catherine's eldest son, the future king, has just been honored with a significant royal title upgrade and ceremonial recognition that cements his place at the very center of the monarchy. Meanwhile, Camilla's grandson is left standing on the sidelines. No title, no special acknowledgement, no place in the glittering spotlight. And according to sources close to the situation, Camilla is not taking it quietly. She's furious. She's seething. And the entire royal household is feeling the heat. Let's rewind for a moment and set the stage properly. Prince George of Wales is not just any royal child. He is second in line to the throne. Every public appearance, every carefully staged photograph, every carefully chosen school uniform is part of a long-term strategy to present him as a polished, ready-made heir. Recently, the palace confirmed a formal enhancement to his official style and the ceremonial privileges that come with it. Think additional recognition in official documents, elevated protocol at state events, and a clearer public positioning that says, "This boy is a future." It is the kind of quiet but powerful elevation that royals understand better than anyone. It is not just a title on paper. It is a signal. Now contrast that with Camilla's side of the family. Her son Tom Parker Bowles has a son, Freddie, a bright, ordinary boy growing up far from the gold leaf and the red carpets. No Her Royal Highness. No princely style. No automatic place in the order of precedence. No invitation to the inner circle of royal duties. In the rigid world of the British monarchy, bloodline and proximity to the throne decide almost everything. Freddie is Camilla's grandson, yes, but he is not a working royal, not in the line of succession in any meaningful way, and therefore not entitled to the same honors that flow so freely toward George. That difference has always existed. But something about the latest wave of attention surrounding Prince George has pushed Camilla over the edge. Palace insiders are whispering that she has been unusually vocal in private meetings, that she has questioned, sometimes sharply, why the system seems so eager to elevate one child while completely overlooking another who shares her blood. One source described her reaction as incandescent. Another simply said, "She is not happy," and when Camilla is not happy, people notice. Picture the scene. The Queen Consort, who spent years being portrayed as the other woman, who fought for acceptance, who finally secured her place beside the king, now watching the next generation of the Wales family being polished and promoted with every possible advantage. Meanwhile, her own grandson remains a private citizen with a normal surname and no official role. The optics sting. The symbolism stings harder. For a woman who has always been acutely aware of status, hierarchy, and how the public perceives legitimacy, this feels personal. It is not hard to understand the emotional undercurrent. Camilla has grandchildren she clearly loves. She has been photographed with them on occasion, warm and grandmotherly. But the monarchy is not a family picnic. It is an institution built on primogeniture, on the careful rationing of titles, and on the idea that only a select few are truly royal. Prince George was born into that select few. Freddie was not. And every time the palace leans harder into George's future role, new portraits, new official mentions, new ceremonial weight, the gap becomes more visible. Sources claim Camilla has raised the issue in conversations with senior courtiers, not in the form of a formal demand. She knows better than that, but in pointed remarks about fairness, about family, about how the monarchy should not appear to discard one set of grandchildren while elevating another. The responses she has received, according to those same sources, have been polite but firm. The rules are the rules. Titles are not gifts to be handed out based on affection. They follow the line of succession and the decisions of the sovereign. King Charles, for all his modernizing instincts, has shown little appetite for rewriting the fundamental structure of royal ranks simply to soothe family feelings. And so the frustration builds. Camilla, who has always been a shrewd reader of power, finds herself in the uncomfortable position of watching the Wales branch consolidate its dominance. William and Catherine's carefully curated image of a young, photogenic, future-facing family continues to dominate public affection. Their children, George especially, are the face of the monarchy's tomorrow. Camilla's grandchildren, by contrast, are expected to live ordinary lives. That ordinary life may be healthier in many ways, but it does not come with the validation of a royal title. And validation, in this rarefied world, still matters. The timing of George's latest honor has only sharpened the contrast. Coming as it does during a period when the monarchy is still navigating public scrutiny, health concerns within the family, and questions about relevance, the palace has chosen to lean into continuity and the next generation. George is the living proof of that continuity. Every new recognition given to him is a statement. The institution endures. For Camilla, who has spent a lifetime fighting to be seen as legitimate, the message can feel like another quiet reminder that her own family remains outside the golden circle. People close to her describe a woman who is usually composed, witty, and resilient, now showing rare flashes of irritation. Not the public meltdown the tabloids love to invent, but a private, sustained displeasure that staff have learned to navigate carefully. Meetings run longer. Comments land sharper. The atmosphere around certain discussions about the younger Wales children has become charged. One aide is said to have remarked that you can feel the temperature change when the subject of titles and recognition comes up. Of course, the palace will never confirm any of this. Official statements will continue to speak of a happy, united family. Photographs will still be released showing Camilla smiling at public events. The carefully managed image will remain intact. But behind the curated smiles, the old tensions of rank, blood, and belonging are once again bubbling to the surface. Prince George rises another step on the ladder that was always waiting for him. Camilla's grandson remains where he has always been, outside the formal structure. Loved perhaps, but not honored in the way the monarchy reserves for its own. And Camilla, the woman who finally got her crown, is left wrestling with a truth the institution has never bothered to soften. Not all grandchildren are created equal. Some are born to be princes. Others are born to watch from the wings. The latest honor bestowed on George has simply made that reality impossible to ignore. And for a queen who has never been especially good at ignoring things that rankle, the result is exactly what the title of this video promised. She has gone nuts. Quietly, privately, but unmistakably. And that quiet fury is only the beginning of the story. Because once you start looking closer at the way the palace has handled this latest wave of recognition for Prince George, the pattern becomes impossible to miss. Every carefully worded announcement, every new official photograph, every subtle elevation of his style and standing sends the same message. This child is a future, and the institution will invest in him without hesitation. Meanwhile, Camilla's grandson continues his life in near-total privacy, untouched by titles, unmentioned in court circulars, and completely absent from the machinery of royal prestige. The imbalance is not accidental. It is structural. And for a woman who has spent a lifetime navigating the sharp edges of that structure, it feels like a fresh wound. Insiders say Camilla has not limited her frustration to private muttering. She has raised pointed questions in conversations with senior members of the household staff. Why does the system move so swiftly to enhance the standing of one boy while remaining utterly silent about another who shares her blood? Why is every public gesture of continuity reserved for the Wales children, while her own grandchildren are expected to remain grateful for the occasional family gathering and nothing more? The answers she receives are always the same. Tradition, succession, the long-established rules that separate those born into the direct line from those who are not. But answers like that do not soothe. They only underline the distance. What makes the situation particularly raw is the timing. The monarchy has spent the past several years carefully rebuilding its public image after periods of intense scrutiny. Health concerns within the family, shifting public opinion, and the constant pressure to appear modern and relevant have all forced the institution to lean heavily on the next generation. Prince George, with his solemn little face and carefully managed public appearances, has become the living symbol of stability. Every new honor placed upon him is designed to reassure the public that the future is secure. Camilla understands the strategy. She has lived through enough royal crises to know why the palace chooses a path it does. Understanding it, however, does not make the personal cost any easier to accept. Sources close to the Queen describe a woman who is usually the picture control composure, now displaying rare moments of visible irritation when the subject arises. Meetings that once flowed smoothly can take on a sharper edge. Casual remarks about the younger generation land with unexpected weight. Staff have learned to tread carefully around any discussion that compares the treatment of the Wales children with a complete absence of formal recognition for Camilla's own grandchildren. One longtime aide is said to have observed that the temperature in the room changes the moment the conversation turns to titles. Another simply noted that Camilla has never been someone who accepts second-class status lightly, especially not when it involves family. There is also the deeper emotional layer that few outside the palace ever see. Camilla has always been fiercely protective of her children and their families. She has spoken in the past, in carefully measured tones, about the importance of ordinary life for her grandchildren. She has insisted that they should be allowed to grow up away from the relentless glare of public attention. On the surface, that position looks generous and wise. But generosity becomes complicated when the same institution that claims to value privacy for her side of the family simultaneously pours resources, attention, and ceremonial weight onto the other side. The double standard is glaring, and Camilla, who has never been blind to double standards, feels every inch of it. Some observers believe the real source of her anger is not simply the lack of a title for her grandson. It is the larger message the situation sends about belonging. Prince George was born into the heart of the monarchy. His path was mapped out before he could walk. Every privilege that flows toward him is presented as natural, inevitable, almost automatic. Camilla's grandson, by contrast, exists on the periphery, loved, acknowledged in private, but permanently outside the circle of formal recognition. For a woman who spent decades fighting to be accepted as a legitimate part of the royal story, watching that same institution quietly exclude her own bloodline cuts deep. The tension is made more complicated by the presence of King Charles himself. Charles has always walked a careful line between modernizing instincts and deep respect for tradition. He has shown affection for Camilla's family over the years, including them in certain private moments and allowing a degree of warmth that previous generations might have withheld. Yet when it comes to the hard architecture of titles and precedents, he has shown little interest in rewriting the rulebook. The decisions that elevate Prince George remain firmly within the established order. And that order does not stretch far enough to include Camilla's grandson in any official capacity. William and Catherine, for their part, have stayed carefully above the fray. Their focus remains on presenting a stable, photogenic, future-facing family unit. Every public appearance by Prince George reinforces the narrative they have built with precision. There is no indication that they have directly addressed Camilla's private frustrations, and it is unlikely they ever will in any formal sense. The Wales household has its own priorities, and those priorities center on securing the next generation's place at the center of national life. In that context, the emotional undercurrents on Camilla's side of the family remains someone else's problem to manage. Public reaction, when the story begins to circulate more widely, is likely to split along predictable lines. Some will argue that the rules of succession exist for a reason, and that opening the door to title for non-direct descendants would create chaos. Others will see Camilla's reported frustration as deeply human, a grandmother watching the system elevate one child while quietly sidelining another. The monarchy has always struggled with the tension between institutional necessity and personal feeling. This latest chapter simply makes that tension visible once again. What cannot be ignored is the symbolic weight of the moment. Every new honor given to Prince George is another brick in the wall of continuity the palace is determined to build. Every silence surrounding Camilla's grandson is a reminder that not every royal connection carries equal value. The institution is choosing, quite deliberately, where to invest its prestige. And Camilla, who waited so long to claim her own place within that institution, is now forced to watch the next chapter being written without her family at its center. The result, according to those who have witnessed her reaction, is a rare and sustained intensity of feeling. Not the explosive public confrontation the more dramatic headlines might suggest, but a private, persistent displeasure that has altered the atmosphere around certain discussions inside the household. Staff navigate it carefully. Advisors choose their words with extra caution. And the woman who finally became queen continues to confront the uncomfortable truth that the crown she wears does not automatically extend its full privileges to every member of her bloodline. In the end, this is a story about power, belonging, and the quiet hierarchies that still govern royal life. Prince George rises another measured step into the role he was born to inherit. Camilla's grandson remains exactly where the system has always placed him, outside the formal structure, free of the burdens of royal duty, but also free of its honors. For most people, that freedom might look like a blessing. For a queen who has spent a lifetime measuring status and legitimacy, it feels like something closer to exclusion. And so the tension remains. The smiles of the cameras continue. The official statements speak of unity and family. But behind the carefully maintained facade, the gap between one grandson and another has never felt wider. Camilla sees it. She feels it. And if the reports from inside the palace are even half accurate, she is not prepared to pretend otherwise. The monarchy has always demanded that its members accept the rules as they are written. Camilla has accepted many of them over the years. This particular rule, however, appears to have pushed her past the point of quiet acceptance. Whether that private fury leads to any lasting change remains to be seen. For now, the contrast stands stark and unresolved. One boy elevated, another ignored, and a queen left wrestling with the limits of the institution she finally joined. That is the real story behind the headlines. And it is far from over. If you found this deep dive into the latest royal undercurrents as revealing as I did, make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe for more unfiltered coverage of the monarchy's hidden dramas, and drop your thoughts in the comment below. Do you think Camilla has every right to feel overlooked, or should the rules of succession remain absolute? I want to hear every perspective. The conversation continues right here, and so does the story.